Hey there, this is John Gallagher from Raven. You are watching CMS TV. Turn it up.
Well, I'm going to send you over since your dad was a truck driver.
All right.
There was actually a song out there about truck drivers who went into a certain truck stop because they had a hot waitress in there and liked the way that she walked around.
Oh, my dad was definitely one of them.
Yeah. So this is nothing new. This is age old, but there was a song actually made about that, and Chris will play it here in a second. The guy's name, the author, the artist's name, I think his name was Claude Gray. I think
Claude Gray.
I'm not really sure. I got to check this out.
Yeah, Claude Gray.
Yeah, Claude Gray.
All right, let's get the Donald off the screen here.
All right. So this is about truck drivers going in, ogling a waitress because she was hot.
All right, let's see what we got here.
You know, a lot of folks stop at truck stops. They just naturally think they should, 'cause they figure any place a truck driver eats, the food's just got to be good.
All right, I got to stop right there. Nobody thinks that. Nobody's ever thought, it'd be a good place to go to dinner, honey. How about the truck stop?
Yeah, they always called them the greasy spoon.
Yes.
Let's go into the choke and puke.
Yeah, nobody ever said, hey, let's get the family together for dinner. Where you want to go? The truck stop.
Right.
Nobody, where would be a great place for dinner tonight? How about the Flying J? Stop it.
Yeah, let's go to the TA for dinner tonight.
Just stop.
Let's go to the 76.
Yeah, let's do that. Get some gas too while we're there. It's great. Good Lord. Get some Sbarro to take home with us while we're at it. Fuck out of here. All right, here we go.
They go out there amongst all them truck drivers, sitting around talking low. They're talking about women and stuff like that and how fast them trucks will go.
What? They're talking about women? They're in there talking about women?
No way. No way. That's crazy. All right, here we go.
There's the little old place out on 66 where a lot of the drivers stop and get their kicks. Reckless eyeballing this waitress that got called Flo. There's always a bunch in here hanging out, cutting up and talking about how she wiggles when she walks and stuff like that, and how fast them trucks will go. What's a wonder fella can sit down and eat is how many eggs are his bread and meat with a good-looking woman like that around and on the go. First thing you know, you get to fidgeting and fussing and nudging one another instead of discussing how she wiggles when she walks and stuff like that, and how fast them trucks will go.
Why do I think this was on constant play in your truck?
But look at the picture on that album.
Oh, yeah.
Look at the big boobs on that girl. She would have made a great Hooters girl.
Yeah. Or a truck driver, a truck stop waitress.
Yeah. Look, she's got the nips sticking out and everything.
Yeah. Those are some healthy milkers there.
Yeah, look at that.
Oh, yeah.
But look, this song was from like 1970 or something like that.
Right, of course.
This is nothing new.
No. Dude, I just remember, I probably shouldn't even tell this one. Mom, if you're listening, stop. I know she's not, but I just remember I've told this before about I used to go with my dad 1 week a summer. He would take me, they had kind of a standing run from Cleveland to Scottsdale, Arizona,
Right.
for the Brown Derby. And so he would take me, and it was about a week. You know, we would drive a delivery out to Scottsdale and then drive back. And it was like 4 or 5 days, you know, and we would hit all the truck stops along the way. And every truck stop we hit, the waitresses all knew my dad.
Of course.
You know, they weren't like, hello, stranger with child. They were like, hey, Bill, is this your kid? You know, it was like that. And my dad was always like, hey, Gene, how are you? Or whatever, you know. And I just remember the first time I went with my dad, I was probably like 12 or 13 years old and naive as all hell. And the first thing he had like the sleeper cab, but the old fashioned one, not like the real nice ones.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
they called it a little cracker box.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I just remember he was driving and I was tired and I was like, I'm going to take a nap. And he's like, okay. And I got in the back and I remember getting in the back and he had all these like Playboys and Swank and all this shit in here. And I was like, I just remember thinking, I was like, oh my God, Dad's cheating. You know, because I was young and stupid. I was like, yeah, you know, now I just know it's just his beat off material, I'm sure. But, you know, and meanwhile I'm laying in his jizzy fucking bed. But, you know, it was what it was. You know, that was the road. That was, you know, and dude, you were around a million truck drivers. Almost all of them had porno, right?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I drove over the road for 4 years.
And every time you hit a truck stop, you'd see people pushing the magazines out of the way, you know, either off the chair or out of the back seat or whatever.
Right.
They all had porn. That was part of the gig. You're away from your chick, so you beat off all week, then you go home and fuck your girl hard. Right?
I'm out here earning a living. What do you think I am? Beating off all week?
Yes.
I'm busting my hump trying to bring home a paycheck, and you're busting my agates for mowing the lawn when I get home.
Yeah. Meanwhile, he's busting something else in that truck.
Busting nut, as
busting
Tesla said.
That's right. While he's sitting there looking at like Swank or whatever.
Yeah.
There's a reason that all of those magazines are always sold out at the truck stop. You know, and that was the funny thing with my dad was I remember when we like later years, he would bring the truck home.
Yeah.
Like he, you know, when I first started going with him, the truck stayed at the Brown Derby, but he was kind of a regular driver. So a lot of times he would get the call in the morning and, you know, he would just go out to wherever he had to pick up a container or a trailer or whatever.
Right. Right.
And I remember later when I was 15, 16, that was when he would drive him home. So then we would go out and the first thing he would do is stop at the truck stop, like the second exit off the turnpike from our house. And we lived in Streetsboro. So, you know, that's like 6 miles.
Right. Of course.
And the reason he stopped was so he could pick up his porn. He was stopping at the truck stop to pick up, you know, his magazines and back then maps, because that was before you had, you know, mapping shit. So he was always buying maps or this and that. And I honestly think he was just buying maps so he had receipts for it in case my mom ever checked. But he was always buying like porn and shit. Well. He's always had the Playboy or the Penthouse or whatever. Some of the first Playboys of Penthouse I ever saw were his.
Well, there you go. It's typically how it works. It, you know, you're rummaging around in your parents' shit and find it in the closet or under the bed or stuff between the mattress or something.
Yeah, of course. And I didn't turn out to be a filthy. Oh, wait a minute. Never mind. You want more of the song?
Yeah, it's almost over.
All right, here we go.
Well, old Flo, she just takes it all in stride and swells all up with her woman pride. She's tickled plum pink. You come in to see the show.
Hooters girls.
Tickled plum pink?
That you come in to see the show.
She's swelled up?
Yeah, she's swelled up with her woman pride. But there you go. See, she knew, according to the song, that she was the attraction.
Yes, of course.
Hooters girls.
They're the attraction, of course. And let's face it, if this girl here was a lot lizard, she would be rich. Girl with those tits would make a lot of money on the lot. Don't you think?
Mm-hmm.
She wouldn't be sucking cock at $20 a blow. She'd be what do you think she'd make? $75 a blowjob? $100 a blowjob? Especially if she pulled the shirt up and you could fucking fondle the titties a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, again, chicks don't look like that anymore.
No, not really. It's unfortunate. All right, here we go.
She throws a little old extra wiggle in that walk, and you just sit there and grin and talk about homemade loving and stuff like that, and how fast them trucks will go. I can't explain how it makes you feel, but you tip her $5 on a $2 meal. Get yourself together and start heading out kind of slow. While you're pushing that diesel on down the line, you get to thinking about your woman you left behind, how she wiggles when she walks and stuff like that, and how fast them trucks will go.
All right, that's not true. That's not true. Truck drivers ain't thinking about their wives until they're parked the truck and they're going home.
Right.
They are not thinking about, oh man, I can't wait to bang my chick. If they're out Monday through Friday, they're not thinking about their chick on a Wednesday. They're just not.
Yeah.
They're thinking about fucking Flo, the waitress here at the Circle Flying J or whatever.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Last little bit.
We are.
There it is.
So that's nothing new.
No.
They even wrote a song about it.
And I hate to tell you, Studley, but in the lots, in the truck driving lots, 20 for a blowjob's about right. It ain't much more than that. Might be a little more now, but ain't going to be more than like 30. No way. Because it's quick. You just come in, it's 5 minutes, they suck your dick, you're done. On you go.
Well,
so I've heard.
Yeah. I'll tell you a quick story.
All right.
This was yeah. I don't think I ever told you this story.
Okay.
I know you didn't know me well. I mean,
Yeah.
we were friends and everything, and the last truck driving job I had was a daily route.
Mm-hmm.
And I would have to go over to Hubbard, Ohio. You know where Hubbard is?
Mm-hmm.
It's over at the state line of PA and Ohio. It's right at the state line. So I'd have to go there. I had this route every day, and I would pick up auto production parts for the Jeep Liberty plant in Toledo.
Okay.
So I had to go, to several stops in Ohio, over into Pennsylvania, pick up a few things, and then basically head to Toledo, drop the trailer, come back to Macedonia.
Okay.
And park the truck for the day, and then I'd do it all over again. So Monday through Friday, that's what I did. Well, I used to go to this place in Hubbard to pick up lighting products, headlights and, harnesses, electrical harnesses and shit like that.
Okay.
So there was a gal who worked in the shipping department, and she had the biggest boobs on a chick I've ever seen in my life.
Right.
And she took a liking to me. So every day when I would go in there and they were loading the truck, she would grab her clipboard and pretend like she was going out there checking off the
products or whatever, right?
But basically, she would just come around the other side of the truck and make out with me for about 10 or 15 minutes before the truck was being loaded.
Did you ever hit that shit?
Oh, yeah.
All right, there you go.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, many times.
Nice.
Many times.
In the truck? Outside?
Once in the truck, but most of the time she would come over to my apartment in Akron.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Yeah, she would make the trip over from the Youngstown. It was like,
Right.
45-minute drive. So
Right.
she would drive over and,
And
bang it
smother
out.
boat you.
Yeah, bang it out and then go home.
Nice. Nothing wrong with that. That's a good story.
It was a good one.
I'll bet.
She was a good one.
Do you hear from her anymore?
No, this was a long time ago. It's probably been 20 years.
Yeah, she's
But-
probably tripping over those tits at this point.
It could be. But yeah, she had a massive rack, I'll tell you that.
Nice. What do you think they were?
Oh, they were huge.
Like gross huge? Like
No,
basketballs?
No, they were firm. They were
All right.
very firm. They were real and they were firm. But boy, you talk about a rack on a girl. Holy shit!
Did they bounce real hard when she was
Yes.
riding your dick?
Yes.
Looked like it hurt. They hit the bottom and it looks like they're pulling against gravity to come back up.
Yep. But they were firm for as big as they were, and I was just like, holy shit. Exactly. That's exactly what it was like. She might even be your neighbor demon.
Maybe. Look at this. Then Neeley dropped her off at school.
Well, she wasn't quite that young. She was in her 30s.
Like even your nephew's jumping in here.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
You kept that one from us.
Well, there's a few stories out there I haven't revealed that maybe someday I'll dole that out. But
Sure.
she actually came not to my current home here, but she actually came here after I moved here.
To Chicago?
Yeah, she came
No
here.
kidding.
She came here for a couple of days.
Wow.
Yeah,
You
came here over Valentine's Day, as a matter of fact.
Mhm. You gave her your arrow.
Yep. Yep. I took her downtown I got a limo and we went downtown and she banged me in the limo.
Nice. Nice. Her breath smelled like Neeley cock the whole way home.
Well, we're flying down Interstate 94 coming out of Chicago after dinner. She basically banged me in the back seat of the limo.
Nice. You weren't worried about the guy rolling the window down or nothing?
No, didn't
Just
care.
didn't give a fuck.
Didn't care. It was a full limo. It was a stretch limo. It wasn't like a town car. It was,
All right.
So that was a good one.
Nice. Nothing wrong with that. That's fun.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just one of those things you just go, yeah, I remember those days.
Mhm.
That was a good one.